audience and the honorable guests. I have been following VARIndia actually not more than a year or two, but it was very propitious that I started a small company around 2000 because there was this Y2K threat and stuff, which I thought was not a big deal. A lot of us thought it's not going to be as demanding, but all of a sudden we realized Bill Gates is shopping around in IITs in India to get engineers, and you all know it was a facade, but it started the outsourcing. Now with that brief introduction, let me just get to the topic that I have been wanting to relate to you guys. I have a couple of messages. I think, and I relate it to my students all the time, that if you can tell the world why a dollar is 45-50 rupees and not a rupee $45-50 dollars, then you pretty much understand the global distribution of resources. And you have to understand that. If you don't understand, you do not understand why the IT revolution took place the way it did, and how India can relate to the IT revolution the way it does. I'll be quick. I've been told 10 minutes. I wanted to speak a lot, but now, to make a long story short, I think it all started with rationality, as we all know. The Western world, for some reasons that we all scientists and social scientists have failed to explain, got the big breakthrough through Renaissance. And the Renaissance was the historical epoch that really brought the question why. And without why, without rationality, the world would not move from the medieval given. So to understand the IT world now, or even understand the industrialization and how Western world monopolized the resources, global resources, you have to go back to Renaissance time in history and figure out how the revolution, or the question that we asked critically why, changed the dynamics of the world and brought modernity. Once we grasp that, then we can understand why in the world the statistics that keep hunting all of us, that 20% of the world's population, the industrialized world, the Western world, monopolizes 80% of the world's resources, and why 80% of the world populations tries so hard to manage with 20% of the world's resources. So it is just this 80% statistics. You keep in mind, how did it happen? Quickly. They got two things because of this question of why. If you didn't ask the question why, then you would not come to know that why a king will be represented as the divine right, the representative of heaven. So you ask question why? You don't represent our interests, so no taxation without representation changes the politics. It changes the dynamics of economics, society. Man, women start asking each other, I do as much work as you do, the women will say, but I reproduce, you have to support. So why? Why should I be the second fiddle? This why, actually before the why, disaster as a word in the dictionary used to be defined in those days as that God is angry in heaven, all right? And also in Europe, they had plague. They will say God is angry. And when we had smallpox, we said Goddess is angry. So that medievalism, that given, that fatalism, the break that the Western world made brought the industrialization. And what is outsourcing, guys? Everybody is complaining about outsourcing. And in American world, I keep going back and I keep relating to that. I say this is another breakthrough, capitalist breakthrough, like the way it happened when there was a change from steel to rubber. Until that, all the steel, all the car bumpers, everything you saw was all made out of steel. And then the rubber came, the fiber optic came, big revolution. Everything changed. And that created a lot of disjuncture. Similarly, outsourcing or finding cheap labor is one of the capitalist innovation. Big deal. And the economists in America and Western world know it very well. Because when they had the threat from the Japanese car makers in the 80s, they did not close down the borders. I'll come to the 90s quickly later. They did not close down the border. I had just landed in America. They told their car makers, come on, grow up and compete. Because we did the mistake in 30s during the depression, and we got a big depression. We have to be competitive with the world. We have to figure out how to compete without closing the borders so that the whole world grows together. And there is no unemployment, there is no paucity of jobs like it happened in 30s. And they had to be very innovative to overcome that. Now coming to 90s, when you're talking about outsourcing and stuff, same thing. Maybe Ohio did that, but rest of the states did not follow the thing. They all knew that. Now, not to go away from the point, there are two messages I want to deliver. One is, okay, some countries said we are lagging behind industrialization. Remember Homi Bhabha, our atomic, founding father of our atomic research. He said, you know what, we have missed the first industrial revolution. Let us not miss the second one. He meant it in the context of nuclear energy substituting, as an alternative source of energy. But the message was out loud and clear that the developing countries have missed the industrial revolution. Now, in what way they can rejuvenate and catch up is the big thing. Now, we all know that the world of information revolution changed the world's dynamics as well. We did some wrong policy making because when countries like Japan, Taiwan, South Korea adopted a developmental state model where state did not intervene but conformed with market dynamics. We adopted a model which intervened and skewed our state, did similar thing we did what in 1930s American state, closed our borders through import substitutions, wanted to build our cars ourselves. But that ambassador car was not going to compete with Toyota when Toyota is competing with the rest of the world. It is a nice car, it goes it's strong, but the point is, how could you compete when you close the border? How will you the income generating capacity of the people? Okay, now we know Japan became a model for the rest of the world because it followed export-led growth, labor-intensive industrialization. We in India, when we had a dramatically large amount of population and very small amount of capital, chose capital-intensive industrialization, just the opposite of what we are endowed with. 50 years distortions were caused, and we all know why India, Brazil, and Mexico, these countries lagged behind in industrial growth and stuff. Now, here we are. In 90s, 80s, Chinese open up. In 90s, we open up. Now, but we know, in 90s, we have tremendous, what you call resource constraints. Now, how, if you all the educationists in the classroom, you have to relate to the students two major issues. The critical thinking that really ushered industrial evolution is how you can carry that critical thinking, that Socratic method of education into the classrooms of the students. And second thing, you have to realize that this IT education among our students is creating a very enclave, very what you call a geek kind of world that rest of the groups, rest of the course, rest of the society does not relate. I don't have a lot of time, but I'm going all over, hopping all over with the messages. Now, there are two things that is coming to my mind. One thing is, whenever we are doing wave research, one of my very senior colleague at Harvard, Robert Putnam, wrote a book, Lack of Social Capital in America. The message in the book was very much the message that we can relate it now. Because the computer world that we are all enamored with is overtaking in many ways. Whenever a child is reading an article. My daughter calls me from America, Papa, I'm going to do some web research. I said, listen, you have to make sure that web material goes through all kind of churning and critical assessments. Whenever you find a book in the library, that book goes through several anonymous reviews, several critical presentations all around the forums. Then that book is there in the library. Whenever you are saying something in the web, anybody could put it in the web. If you do not teach and train your students to be critically thinking about that web, then that child is not doing the right kind of research. And that child would not be able to even get out of the enclave type of mentality that IT has created. And we are also struggling so hard to relate it to the common man. The second message I want to quickly end with, you to remember, I've been going through about 48 countries now to conduct research on globalization. I have a MacArthur grant, and I've started this small company in India. But wherever I'm going, the world is aging. And this statistics, I think, is in everybody's head here. You're all educators, you all know. Now, you go to Europe, you go to China, you go to developed, anywhere. The biggest question is, people are aging. When I left in the 80s, the big thing everybody was saying, that population bomb is going to explode in the face of India. Like those, I forgot to turn it off. So, anyway, population bomb is going to devastate India. Same thing the Western world was telling, democracy is not going to last in India. We defied it. We defied it on our own way. Now, same way, they were saying population bomb is going to explode. Now, lo and behold, population bomb has become population dividend. And in another, by their saying 2015 and 30, demographics are right. India is perhaps one of the unique countries in the world which will have 400 million people in the most productive age category, 15 to 35. Now, that's a big thing. If you take India and BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and now South Africa, as the countries that are going to change the dynamics and form the coalition that will replace after the empire has set in Britain, America, it will be the BRICS. Then you better know how to prepare these 400 million kids, or 400 million, the population in the most productive age category to really take on the world. So when you are teaching the students about the IT world, please remember the constraints as well. Thank you so much.